Hello, I am with the lovely Amy here today. She's on Instagram as Amy Launder Therapies, and she's a psychotherapist, and we're going to be talking all things talking therapy today. So we'll start with some movement, and then I can ask you about what you do. So we'll just start with some neck tilts. What we're going to do, nice tall chest, ear to shoulder, all the way up and over to the other side. Good. So tell us what you do then.
I do one-to-one talking therapy. So I do it both face-to-face and obviously since COVID online as well. I don't think that's going anywhere. And I tend to work with a lot of millennial clients just because I think they are similar age to me, so relate to me, I guess, or feel like they relate to me more. And I've been doing it for a couple of years now in private practice, so.
You enjoy us?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
So yeah.
I feel like that's one of the most important things, is having somebody that you're relatable to as well. I've been to see therapists before and they've been very old and creaky, and I don't know, I feel weird talking to them about this. I'm like, like, this isn't important, but anyway. Bring your head up to the top. We'll bring one hand down, other arm up, and take a really big stretch. Good.
That's nice.
And to the other side, well done. So, as it's moved online, have you noticed a difference in like how the therapy goes?
A little bit. I do always still think that face-to-face feels better.
Yeah.
I think mainly because you've got the time to kind of prepare on your way and then process on the way home. Whereas especially if you're in like a busy household and you're a parent, you kind of come off the therapy session and straight into bath time and bedtime or whatever is going on in the house, and it's just feels a bit more chaotic sometimes.
Yeah, so actually you need time to like process and take it in.
Yeah.
So what kind of person then would be coming to therapy? What would I be needing to process?
So a lot of, especially with the millennial clients, I see a lot of stress and anxiety, issues with, especially during lockdown, because a lot of millennials move back home with their parents, so like struggling with that because you kind of move back home as an adult, but you end up kind of in the child position back in the house.
Yeah, I did that.
I think a lot of people did that. So there's that, and then just like, I don't see couples, but I do see a lot of like relationship problems, so one person coming to talk about the other and things like that.
Lockdown must have really impacted that.
Yeah, I think it just intensified everything, so if there were any problems, they kind of got intensified, especially if both of you were working at home at the same time. Especially if there's then also kids and homeschooling and all of that. There's a lot to kind of...
Seen. Bring those hands behind your head for me. We're just going to tuck your chin, curl your elbows together, take a nice breath out, and then we'll breathe in, lift up, open those elbows, stretch it out, nice. And we'll just move between those positions. So I think anxiety is one of the biggest things like I see alongside what I teach. And I always say, like, with scoliosis, obviously movement's really important, but only goes part of the way, and there's a huge amount of emotional this turmoil sounds really dramatic, but that's the right word. Like, how's lockdown then made anxieties worse?
I think especially if people were on furlough or not necessarily working from home, there was a lot less to distract from. So it was, I think a lot of people had the same kinds of things going on, but before their life was so busy and they were going out for after work drinks with friends, and then just always busy and never really stopping to listen to their thoughts.
Right, I see.
So everything became again more intensified.
You didn't have like the outlets for your stress.
Yes.
Yeah, I get you. Come up to a high kneel for me, and we can do this one, coordinate. We'll take your left leg out, arms across your chest, get into the hard work. Now we're going to come over, and then squeeze back up to the top. Nice. Now I'm going to try and ask you questions while you're doing these. It's so interesting. So I also saw people getting worse in lockdown physically because of the whole not getting out, sitting still all day. And I think the two are so intertwined, aren't they? Like if you're feeling worse in your body physically, your anxiety is obviously going to skyrocket. Get a lot worse.
Definitely.
So obviously talking therapy you're using as a strategy for that. How does that work? Like, how does that help?
Yeah, so a lot of the time it's just having to say things out loud that you don't normally don't, because a lot of, with like anxious thoughts or stress and things like that, we don't tend to think in full sentences and words, like with emotions and stuff. There's a lot of like, we think we are, but we're really not. It tends to be like a whirlwind of emotions and things. So when you have to say it out loud or even like journal and write it down, you have to make it make sense.
Interesting.
So even before I'm doing anything, it's the client is kind of having to make it make sense, and sometimes just hearing it out loud, they're like, oh that makes a lot of sense now. Sorry, I just stopped.
I thought that's enough obliques. Keep your leg out. We're going to do hands down, and then just sit your butt back onto your heel. Oh, nice. And then come all the way back up. Good. That's so interesting because I always say when I get stressed, I've got like a tangly brain. And I think, do you know what I mean by that? Like where your head's just a bit like,
yeah.
And I guess we take in stress, don't we, in more emotional ways rather than logical way.
Yeah.
So that makes absolute sense that just even speaking it out loud would help with that detangling process.
There's a really nice image of therapy. It's like a cartoon image where one person, there's two people sitting on chairs. One person has got like the thought bubble with like tangled up yarn, and then the therapist is in the other one with the 3 different coloured yarns, like winding them into balls.
Oh, nice.
Which I think is such a lovely way of thinking about it.
Oh, I love that. And then the next process is making something knitted out of it.
Yes,
Makes some sense.
Yeah, which is tends to, obviously that's where I then come in. So I would tend to, whilst a client is talking, I'm always kind of thinking about things that they've said before or things that kind of might link up. So if they're talking about, you know, an issue in a relationship now, how is it similar or different from a relationship in the past, or even a relationship with their parents, or the parents' relationship with the other.
Just hold this last stretch for me.
Yeah.
Feel that.
And sometimes that's things that they haven't thought about, like I'm acting a bit like my mum did or my dad did. Or
the horror.
No one wants that. So that can be quite interesting for people.
Definitely, and I think that's something that if you're in that state of like anxious thinking, you're not going to be logically looking at patterns or anything, are you? Oh, come all the way up. We'll do both of those on the other leg. Tuck yourself in. Leg gets stuck there. That's a twist. Right. So again, arms across your chest, and we're just tilting across the sofa and squeeze back up. Good stuff. And over. Well done. So thinking about actually the talking therapy, like how that works, do you ever say you should do X, Y, Z? Because I think when I've gone to therapy before, I'm like hoping for an answer. Is that how it works? I feel
not normally. I think I said because I think a lot of people come looking for an answer, because I think we're so used to like doctor's appointments and stuff where we go and they just tell us what to do. And I actually made a post about this the other day about why clients are called clients and not patients, and it's because it's like you're more collaborative in it. I'm not just gonna kind of tell someone what to do. The other reason is that you as the client are the expert in your life. So you're the expert in the room really, compared to the therapist. I'm just like a sounding board for the client. So I might suggest looking into something, researching something. I think maybe that's where I differ slightly maybe from other therapists, because I do incorporate a bit of like coaching.
That's good though.
Into it,
it's
and
empowering,
psychoeducation. And I might kind of challenge a client after I've got to know them a bit better. Like they might say they're going to have a certain conversation with someone, and at the end of the session I kind of remind them, so you said you're going to have that conversation. We'll see how it went by next week, and it's a bit of accountability I guess as well.
Which you definitely need. I think that's a huge thing, like you say, a problem with the medical industry as a whole is that traditionally it's like doctor knows best, and actually we're moving away from that, aren't we? So where patients a little bit more, you've got more input into your own health, and realising actually that it's the things that you do for yourself every day that do add up and make the difference.
Yes, definitely.
So that's really good that that's how therapy is working and helping people.
I think it does frustrate people though, because people want an answer, especially our generation and younger. Like we want quick fixes.
No, I've definitely been victim of that before. So how long should therapy last then? If it's not a quick fix, I imagine it's like 1 hour session, and then how many do you do?
So they're 50-minute sessions, which is typical for therapy sessions. And it's up to the client how much we do. I mean, I've done NHS work before, which is depends where you live, but it's 6 sessions or 12 sessions depending on what area you live in. But in private practice, it's completely up to the client as to how long they want to stay. So it's open-ended therapy essentially, which I think scares people because they think it's going to be years and years.
Yeah. How long do you see as like an average?
A couple of months maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you kind of tend to see a difference and a change in someone.
Yeah, I mean you can see a difference as early as 6 weeks, which is why the NHS can do that. But I think sometimes what's interesting is I'll see someone for a couple of months and then they'll be like, oh, I remember in the beginning you said this, and now it makes sense. So it kind of like sinks in. So I think the 6-week thing can be quite disheartening as a therapist because you don't really feel like you're making a difference. But then months later it might have sunk in at that point.
I think that's the whole thing, isn't it? Like you can be told all of these different tools and it's not until you're in that situation where you're like, oh yeah, I can use that.
Now it makes sense.
Yeah, but it's nice that people do come back to you and say that, because I've had that with therapists before. They've been really helpful and I'll use something a year down the line and I'm like, I should probably like drop them a little message like, thanks.
I don't know, it helped.
I haven't. So maybe I should. Grab your band for me. Right, we're getting into your abs.
Oh, gosh.
So I'm sorry. Don't worry, I'll go easy on you. So we're going to loop the band around your arches of your feet and hold it like super low by your ankles. This will make it a bit more manageable. So we're going to do almost like a pelvic tilt. So if you imagine you're spilling some water out the back of your trousers, good. And then recline back, good. And jump your feet out, come up. Nice. Good, let's go again. So I'm going to challenge you because that was too easy. So as you come back, hold there for me. See if you can bring one heel in at a time. Hold it. You do it again. Yes! And jump out. Well done. Okay, one more challenge. I'm getting excited. So we'll do one more time. Coming all the way back. So as you bring those heels in, can you feel your little butt bones on the floor? See if you can balance on them. Lift your feet. Yeah! Come on, Amy. Come on. Well done. It's a good party trick now. We'll just do a few more, don't worry about lifting your feet. Just coming all the way back and forwards. Good, well done. So is it quite a rewarding job to be doing?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's nice to just feel like you're making that impact on people's lives, isn't it?
And I think it's quite an interesting one because as a profession your whole aim is to make yourself obsolete for the person.
Oh yeah.
So you kind of, I think that stresses therapists out when they first go into private practice because obviously the financial side you want clients to need you, but your whole point of being there is that they don't need you in the end.
You could just like feed in little insecurities. Keep people from it, be like, oh yeah, you are anxious, aren't you? Probably stay forever.
Your dad you mentioned 6 weeks ago.
Oh dear.
No, my friend has joked about that one.
Oh, last one for me, well done. Can you imagine? People have said that to me as well, like, oh, just, damage someone's back.
Yeah, right at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Come on to all fours for me. And we're going to do your Superman. So joining all of the core together, so we'll stretch one arm, one leg, and come back in. So you and I need to watch for funky elbows, trying to pop inwards. Good. So the process, obviously you've mentioned both NHS and private. If I was feeling anxious, I'm feeling worried, what do I do? What's the process?
Yeah, so if you're wanting to go through the NHS service, your first stop would be, well, you can self-refer now, so you can Google it and find the NHS service in your area, or you can just go to your GP and they can refer you through.
It's quite daunting, isn't it?
Yeah. There would, again, depending on where you live, be a waiting list and things like that.
Do you know how long roughly that is?
It really depends where you are.
Yeah, okay.
But during lockdown, the waiting lists I think went down.
Oh,
surprisingly.
What?
Yeah, because there was a lot of people who couldn't do online, so they just left the waiting list, which is a shame. So it went down, but it didn't really go down because people weren't actually getting the treatment because they just left. There were other services who were doing face-to-face still, but the NHS wasn't. So yeah, it's a bit of like a false information thing, but private practice wise, you can kind of Google therapists in your area, and the first couple of things that come up will be various directories. So you can kind of search through and there'll be profiles on there and things like that, or if you know a therapist that you want, they'll probably have a website that you can do. And then if it's me, then what I would do, a client would then email me, we would set up a time for a phone call, and then from there, for like a 15-minute phone call, just to kind of chat a bit more, and then from there we would book in a first session and go from
So you almost have like a chat beforehand just to introduce yourself.
Yeah, definitely, and kind of explain how it all goes and things like that.
Because that is like one of the most daunting things. That is one of the most daunting things, is like bearing your soul to somebody you've never met. Like, how do you encourage people to do that?
Yeah, so the first session is a bit of like an introduction to therapy. If someone's had therapy before, it can be really frustrating because they've already said all of the stuff to someone.
Yeah.
But I always say to clients, we're going for breadth rather than depth in the first session. So we kind of, rather than deep diving, we have a whole
story.
Yeah, we have like a whole almost hour to just kind of touch on all the topics, so kind of upbringing and relationships and how was school and university and work and what's your friends like and all of that stuff. So we kind of cover a lot of bases, and hopefully that gives them a chance to feel more comfortable with me as well. And then we kind of go off after that.
Because that's so helpful if you're coming about one issue actually to link up everything else. Because just to talk about my own therapy, I went for like bereavement counselling. And it was in that first session we did a timeline actually.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if that's something that you do. So we were like drawing out life events, and I had my big spinal operation when I was 15. And so I'd come in for bereavement counselling, and then we're doing this timeline, and she's like, oh, what's this that you've put here, this big operation? Do you think that could have caused any trouble? And I was like, yes. But I'd never ever thought about it before. And so I think it does take somebody pulling things out and, as you say, like connecting the dots for you to realise it.
Yeah, because if I don't do that first session and get all the background on someone, I can't then link things up, like I said earlier, to like previous situations and stuff.
Learn about the person. So interesting. So say I'm coming to you because I'm feeling really anxious for whatever reason, or down or whatever, and I do 6 weeks talking therapy. Like, what do I expect to be feeling at the end? Or is that different for everyone?
I think it is different for everyone. It depends on like what the anxiety is, how long it's been going on for. Because some people have been feeling anxious for kind of most of their lives, whereas other people it's something new, like maybe it's a new job that's making them anxious or something like that. So it's different for different people, so I can't really
ask you different questions. You're like, you should be feeling happy and
But I do tend to ask clients, like, how are you expecting to feel at the end? Because if there's someone who's never not felt anxious, then how do they know if they feel better? What does that feel like?
That's such a weird question. I don't know what it's like to not be stressed.
I think that's entrepreneur life.
But no, that's really interesting. I think when I went, it was like to feel more in control of my emotions, or to like be able to understand my emotions.
I don't know, I think that's a really good one.
Because you kind of get to that point, don't you, where your emotions are just like everywhere and you're a bit and it's nice to detangle and just have somebody else to soundboard and talk it through. Oh, it's really helpful. Well, it's really nice to meet you.
You too.
I hope you're feeling that through your tongue.
I know, thank you for that.
Yeah, that's good. Good. Well, it's so nice to meet you, and I hope you guys are able to join in at home and learn a little bit more about talking therapy. So I'll link Amy's website in our description, video description. And you can get in touch with her there. Alright, thank you so much.
Thanks.